Watch an insane race-baiting CNN lady absolutely lose it, all right? She goes schizo race hustling on air. It is quite a sight to see, you guys, and I think you're going to enjoy it. So we're going to get right into it. But first, do me a big favor here. Like our video and share it around so we can keep bringing you guys this great, hard-hitting content. And get ready. You're going to see the race hustling of the century, guys. It is bad. As always, my friends, I'm your host, Darian, and this is Resist the Mainstream.
I do not have the same opportunity as you. I know I don't.
And you know
and
that
I know
too.
what, Scott?
And you know that.
Let me just tell you about me.
I'm gonna let you finish, but I want to answer this.
I'm not talking about how you feel. I'm talking about how I feel. Me, a black woman in this country.
But not in this city.
And I will run. And if you want
I'm a New Yorker, not in this city. You cannot say that. You can't say that in this city.
I'm not talking about New York. I'm talking about actually
let her finish.
right here. I got a law degree, a master's, and 2 bachelors. Probably more education than all of y'all added up together at this table, right? And I have always been the least paid person on payroll at every institution I have worked in. And it's not because...
Even in the White House?
Wow. In the White House.
Well, whose fault is that? I don't think he worked for George W. or Trump.
Well, guess what happened when I was there? DEI.
What? Maybe, just maybe, your degrees are irrelevant and don't actually help you with your job or your skills. Are you even practicing law, lady? Like, what are you even talking about? Also, the arrogance is just so palpable. Oh, I got more education than you guys combined. Okay, no one cares. No one cares. Did I mention that nobody cares? Also, did you guys see that lady snapping obnoxiously in the back? You got it's easy to miss. Let me find this.
That all y'all added up together at this table, right? And I have always been the least.
See that? Oh my gosh. Just so obnoxious. So obnoxious. It's incredible. Believe it or not, she is not the only race hustler on this insane panel. All right, check this out, guys. It gets bad.
If race is not the issue, then why is DEI mentioned every single day as a solution to every single problem that faces this?
Because of how pervasive it is, and how hateful it is to an actual conservative ideological view.
But do you think it is true that all of America's ills, from the plane crash to whatever it is, wildfires, due to DEI for real?
I think that if you believe in the fundamental principle of America, which is that we guarantee everybody an equal chance, not an equal outcome, but an equal chance, then trying to go around that principle, conservatives don't believe in it. And most people who believe in America don't believe in it, number one. Number two, the concept of not hiring the best person for the job in government or anywhere else has been repeatedly rejected by the American people, the Supreme Court, and everything else. And so
what do you get? So I guess what I'm saying is, like, if that is the case, then people are questioning the actual qualifications of many people Donald Trump hired for jobs.
Yeah.
So do you think that he actually...
Why?
Because Elon Musk doesn't even go here.
Do you think that he...
That's why.
This is the question people are asking. This is the question that Ryan Clark just asked. Did Donald Trump, for Health and Human Services, find the person with the best expertise to address those issues? When it comes to the Department of Defense, did he find the person with the best expertise to address those issues, or did he just find people who he liked?
Look at her smug face, just so insufferable. This doesn't even make sense, all right? What point are you even trying to make right now? Trump did not pick those people for immutable characteristics, right? He did not pick them because they were white men, black women, purple gals, whatever you want to say. That wasn't why Trump picked them. So what's even your point? Oh, Trump does DEI too because he picked somebody I don't like. What? Like, these people are so... I'm not going to say it. Okay, it's not nice, but they're not the sharpest tools in the shed, all right? Let's leave it at that.
Political appointees have one qualification. They serve at the pleasure of the president because the president believes that person's going to best carry out their agenda. That is the only qualification.
And to protect and defend the Constitution.
And that is the only qualification for a political appointee.
Doesn't matter.
Of course they're competent. Of course he believes they're competent. If he didn't believe they were competent, he wouldn't appoint them.
You're not being fair with that. You're not being fair with that response. She asked you a very simple question, yes or no. Look at the appointees. Do you believe DEI had anything to do with those appointees? Do you believe they were qualified? Do you think they would protect and defend the Constitution that represents all of the people of the United States of America?
I think Mark Rubio.
I think you all have literally no idea how the government works, is what I actually
do. I do. I serve at a higher level than anyone here.
A couple people at this table have served in the government.
Yeah, me too.
Including for this former president.
I just want to say that I think the premise that DEI exists and therefore the people that got the opportunity, perhaps because of DEI, are not qualified is a flawed premise.
Correct.
And I think that is what is so frustrating about the argument around DEI. We know in this country, historically, and even today, there are still injustices in this country based on race, based on gender, based on ideology.
Based on who your daddy played
golf with. Yes.
Okay, that happens every single day. We know that.
But it happens every single day all over the planet.
That's
the planet Earth. It is human nature. It is human. Every single, and we're the best at it. We're the best at trying to
Donald Trump's our president.
It's actually a very correct premise to assume that if somebody got in because of some kind of program that by definition is racist and sexist against people who don't check the arbitrary box, that they're probably less qualified. How are we even having this argument right now, all right? I'll give you guys a great example of DEI and the deadly consequences it can bring. United Airlines announced back in 2021 that half of all pilots they train would now be women and people of color. Yes, half. All right, that is disturbing. It probably doesn't surprise you guys to hear this, but a good probably 95% plus of airline pilots are men, and specifically white men. All right, and that is because they just happen to generally be the most qualified people for the job. Oh, call me racist, call me sexist. I don't care. It's just true. And now you have these airlines who, by definition, are being racist and sexist, which ironically claiming to fight these things with their stupid DEI programs. They say, by the way, to the 45% of white men who obviously would have been qualified for this position, essentially, fuck you, get out of here. We're going to replace you with some kind of women, black person, black woman, whatever, because, your ancestors allegedly might have done something or something like that. So screw you. It doesn't matter that you're more qualified. That is sick. And it has deadly consequences, all right? I'll give an example of one that is, in my opinion, all right, it's my opinion, but this is probably DEI. In December 2022, all right, almost 3 hours after United announced their initiative about training half of all their pilots not being white men, essentially, that's what it is. They had a flight that almost crashed into the Pacific Ocean flying out of Hawaii. It was really scary. It was within 400 feet of crashing. To give you an idea of how close 400 feet is, that means basically if they hadn't fixed that in about 2 to 3 seconds, everybody on board would have been killed. All right, it was a Boeing 707, I believe that's the name. That was probably carrying at least 300 passengers, likely more. And what did United do about this? Well, first of all, a couple of things. First of all, we don't know who the pilot was. Interesting, right? The two pilots, actually. We don't know who they were. I wonder if they were DEI hires. And they soft-rolled the story in the media. It was barely covered. That's why you probably haven't heard of it. Yeah. Really gross, really scary. And to give you, you just heard about this plane crash that just happened in DC, really horrifying thing. It killed I think it was about 60 people. This would have killed about 5 times the amount of people. Okay, 5 times. It almost happened. And that DC plane crash that killed 60 people was the deadliest in about 15 years. So we almost had that happen, a much deadlier plane crash. In my opinion, possibly because of DEI. That is sick. Oh, and the cherry on top, the pilots weren't fired. They just got a little bit of extra training and they're still flying with United. Makes me feel real safe and secure.
I guess that's exactly my point. I agree with you. I think that it is true that there have been preferences not for merit since the dawn of time. And that in this country right now, the same people who are going after DEI, which is about giving opportunities to people who have been historically marginalized, are just as willing to hire their friends.
Is that what equity means? Giving opportunity or guaranteeing outcomes?
No, it's giving access.
Because that's what equity means.
It's
a difference. There's a difference between equality and equity.
No, it's giving access.
I just want to answer his question because I think this is
talent
super,
and hard work
Scott,
give you
I think this
access?
is incredibly important for you to understand and for everybody to understand at home, okay?
If you think these CNN hosts are insufferable as I do, guys, hit that subscribe button down below. Thank you so much.
This is where I think we go crossways on this issue. You just asked the question, what does equity mean? Does it mean equality or does it mean access to opportunities? And conservatives want to define it a particular way, but you have to acknowledge, I'm asking you to acknowledge that people who believe in DEI do not define it that way. They do not define it as equality.
I think they define it as trying to guarantee outcomes, and I think they define it as trying to punish people they don't like.
Scott, that's
wrong race, wrong gender.
Speaking for more of the middle of the country who's not hyper-partisan on this issue, I think that people generally think diversity is a virtue. It makes businesses better. It makes institutions better. But they also don't like when you have companies or organizations that are spending huge amounts of money to stand up DEI office. As an example, Fairfax County Public Schools, $400,000 spent on a DEI office, but kids are not reading at the levels that they should. They're not advancing at the levels that they should. It's not the issue
but were
of
they
diversity.
doing that before the office was stood up?
Well, no, and probably not. And so I'm not saying the connection.
So maybe.
Watch out for the Lucifera Griffin girl, all right? She is a snake, a wolf in sheep's clothing. She always plays this fake centrist role. She's just a raging Democrat lefty. She just hides it pretty well. And she actually stabbed Trump in the back. She was a former member of the Trump admin and then became a total lib.
Implementing DEI might actually help people have a better
But it's not an argument against DEI. It's how much of our resources are we actually putting
But that's not that's not the way the conversation is being posed in America today. The conversation about DEI and woke and all of that sounds about marginalized black and brown people who already are threatened seem to be threatened in this community, in this society, and they're not getting the same opportunities. It was the same thing with affirmative action. Went to UCLA, they got rid of affirmative action. Everyone said you got in because of affirmative action. When I graduated, affirmative action didn't take my test. Affirmative action didn't help me get to where I'm at today. It gave me access that I didn't have based on the opportunity that I lacked because of the circumstances I was born into, which had nothing to do with me, but the country in which we live in.
Affirmative action didn't take your test. Yeah, you're right. It didn't take your test. You just took it. You didn't do that well, and then it bumped your score up above a more qualified white person. Did I get that right?
The reality is...
Have you seen the test scores of UCLA Medical, by the way?
My point being, Scott, is that everyone doesn't have the same access. People like to hire their friends. They like to hire the people that they like to be around.
Do you think they like to hire the best people for the job?
But I also think around the idea of diversity...
No, Donald Trump hired all of his friends. But I want to go back to people that are in his cabinet right now. You know, because you are a smart man. I know you know this.
Why don't you understand how political appointments work? I don't understand.
It's not about, but this is, can we just go beyond? Can we just go beyond? Can we just go beyond the cabinet?
Oh, I don't know about you guys, but I have a headache after that. That was really something. All that being said, folks, if you like the video, please be sure to comment below. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you all again soon. God bless.